Round two. Okay, so I'll give you guys a chance to hop back in. So apparently we just discovered that Facebook is like Snapchat now. And you can have all kinds of little background pieces and colors and music, and it actually has masks and things to put on your face, but I thought that would be super distracting. I was hoping just the flowers were cute, but a little too much. Anyway, we're gonna dive right in. I'll give everybody a chance to get back on again. I kind of twisted up my necklace in the process. Alright, so we're gonna talk about negative emotions, and I kind of made a list of the ones that stand out the most to me, that I think that I experience most with my clients that we work through. And if you can catch the negative emotions early on before they go full blast and take over, you can actually save yourself a lot of time, a lot of headache, and a lot of pain. So we'll get started in a couple minutes, give everybody a chance to jump in, say hello, and we'll do it nice and peaceful this time without any background music. Sound like a deal? So let's give it some time. I am going to go ahead and share this in my Facebook group also, so we can have everyone get in here. Oops, just bear with me 1 second. I have it on one of those little stands. You guys get up close and personal now. So let me just get into my Facebook page, share it with my group, and then we will jump in. Which, by the way, if you're not in my Facebook group, I have a really loving and personal... Oh, it's sideways. Well, that's not good. Lord Jesus, we're going to have to go for round 3. I don't know why it's not working. The last one with the flowers. Okay, we're going to have to turn it up right. Round 3. Let's try and turn this puppy around. Okie dokie. You know, before they did this update, I was actually able to do the Facebook Live with it long ways. And I got some kind of update on my phone, so I got all those cute little graphics that I gave you guys before. But now, it doesn't look like I can do... I have to do it this way. Okay. Put you back to where you were before, and we can get started. Okay, that was a little crazy before with the sideways. Glad I caught that. Alright, so I made a list of the common negative emotions that I see a lot of my clients experiencing, and that can really just knock you on off your feet. And I think if you have the awareness that something's coming around the corner, it can actually save you a lot of time, a lot of headache. So that's my goal for you today. I made a list of some of the more powerful ones that are very difficult. And the first being, notice who you're surrounding yourself with, right? If you have a lot of negative people in your daily life, whether it be at your home, at your job, people that you talk to, even your news feed, to be honest with you, I've had to get so many people off my news feed, either by unfollowing them or by deleting them, because I'm someone who, you know, I tend to be pretty upbeat. A lot of times people will nickname me Sunshine. So when I see people that are just always down and out, it just brings my energy level down. And who wants that, right? So notice who you're spending the most time with and how you feel after you spend time with them. Did you guys notice it looks like I have a halo above my head? I love it. That's actually my light. Let me see if I can shut it off. It's a little better. It's kind of distracting. But notice who you're spending your time with. Notice who is, you know, you're spending the majority of your day with. And if you are around people that are just complaining, think the world is coming to an end every day, it's time to shift and get around some more positive, more influential people that can bring you up, because you don't always want to be the person that has to bring everybody else up. Sometimes you need people to bring yourself up too. We're all human, right? We have bad days. I know that I can't be around negative people, especially if I'm feeling down. I need somebody to lean on when I'm having a bad day, and someone that can pick me back up. So be really careful on who you're spending your time with, and then adjust that. The next thing we want to talk about is some of the skills that you can follow to enhance the relationships that you do have. So some of the things that you want to do is, in the relationship itself, are you blaming people or are you taking responsibility? When you can actually take responsibility and make the necessary changes in the relationship, you actually feel better about yourself because you took ownership of it and you made a change, you made a difference. So that's one thing that you can do. Don't take the relationship for granted. Notice that the relationship needs constant nurturing to grow. So appreciate and honor the relationship. If you are somebody who may potentially assume the worst, and not just in a relationship, but in anything, try giving it a chance and assume the best. Because what if everything that you looked at, you thought the best was possible? How would that affect the outcome? If you always think like, oh, I can't do it, I'm not good enough, I can't do it, I'm going to fail, oh, it's never going to work out, I'm never going to find it, and you constantly have that negative spinning going on, imagine twisting that around and saying to yourself, oh, I can't believe I can do this, this is possible, and what will happen with my life when I do this? And put that spin to do the exact opposite of what you're doing. So if you tend to hold on to that negative possibility that dwells in your mind, then put a spin on it and see how it shifts your perspective in your decision-making process, in your energy levels. It actually kind of boosts you up when you feel good. If you notice people that are sad or down, or even if you've been sad or down, you're tired, you're dragging, you're low energy. So if you can boost your energy up, it's actually going to complement that shift, that change. It's also important to have some level of physical contact. So if you're somebody who is maybe not in a relationship or not a touchy-feely, cuddly kind of person, you're actually missing out because we need that. And so it doesn't have to be that I'm not telling everybody to run out and sleep with people or any crazy nonsense like that. What I mean by that is it can be as simple as get a massage. Get a 15-minute massage. If you can get longer, great. But if it's a budget thing, just go out there and get a massage. It's still a form of touch. Petting an animal, a form of touch. So all of those things are nourishing, and all of those things just are another way to give yourself love. So if you find yourself feeling lonely or missing company and you're not in a relationship, those are ways that you can fill that void in a healthy way, because you always want to look for healthy alternatives, right? Are you somebody that maybe does some fortune telling? You kind of put out there what you think is going to happen, or you think you know what others are thinking. You do some mind reading, and before you know it, things have such an opposite twist on them that they're no longer reality. And you waste a lot of time looking at the what ifs. You waste a lot of time and energy on, maybe I should put the light back on. Such a hard time doing videos in this room. But maybe, you're focusing on the outcomes of assuming that, maybe you're not going for an interview because you assume you're not going to get it. So there's the assumption, the fortune telling, the mind reading. If that's a pattern that you catch yourself doing, just ask yourself, kind of just do like a quick little check-in and just say, like, is this real? Is this something that I'm making a decision in my mind before the facts actually come together? Am I forecasting my decision? And you can kind of rationalize with yourself to see if you've actually gathered enough things to make it real, or if you're just assuming and projecting the information. Another thing that you want to look out for is if you're thinking with your feelings. So if you're someone who thinks with your feelings, it means that you feel this way, so it must be true. And a lot of times, if we're in an emotional state, we feel something that's overwhelming. We assume it is fact before we look any further. And then things can get blown out of proportion. So if you're thinking with your feelings, you want to kind of step back for a moment and just notice that your emotions are interrupting your thought. Does that make sense? Another thing that you want to be aware of is how you are looking at different situations. Are you saying things like should, must, ought to, have to? There's a level of guilt that you're incorporating into your thought process. And by doing that, you're not actually looking at what you want to do, what you need to do, or what you're willing to do. You're doing it because you think that you have to do it. You're doing it because you think you ought to do it. And if you're doing something with those intentions in mind, it's probably not going to be the greatest outcome for you. So you want to just be aware of those key phrases. Are you someone possibly who attaches a negative label? A negative label can be harmful if you put people in a category. If you sum people together, oh, they're jerks, they're arrogant, they're stupid, they don't know any better. If you put people into categories, you've blocked off any ability to see who they are. You've blocked off any ability to get to know them. This is why right now, in the day and age of all this craziness going on, why the opinions and racism even comes into play, because people are categorizing people without actually getting to know an individual. There's a lot of assumption going on, negative thoughts. It spins out of control. So that's a perfect example of what happens when you categorize, when you label, when you lump some people. You're not looking at individuals. So if you're somebody that potentially categorizes things before actually gathering the facts and getting to know the depth of the individual, the person, the group, that's something you want to look out for. Another thing is personalizing when someone is doing without knowing the fact of why they're doing it. For example, you start to assume and make things about you when it has nothing to do with you. So maybe you're at work and a coworker, your boss, somebody scurries past you and doesn't say good morning, right? And in that instance, you start to think, oh my gosh, why aren't they talking to me? They don't like me? Did I do something wrong? Right? And your mind starts to spin and it looks at all these different things. And in the meantime, they just had an important meeting to go to. It had nothing to do with you. So you want to notice when you're kind of assuming that something has to do with you when there's nothing at all. You have no facts. You have nothing to base it on. But our mind is really powerful, right? And all of a sudden, it starts to take over. And it makes up these stories that never even existed, right? So notice when you're doing that, and then you can actually rationalize with yourself and say to yourself, hey, wait a minute. He just walked past me. He didn't say anything negative. He just walked past me in a hurry. I wonder where he's going. Get curious, right? Because if you're curious, you can't be curious and angry at the same time. You can't be curious and judging at the same time if you have a genuine, open curiosity. So you want to get really curious. And as I mentioned before, when situations come up, do you find yourself blaming people? Or do you take responsibility yourself? That's something really important to be aware of, is if you're blaming others. So I made a couple of quick little checkpoints that you can use to reverse these things around. And you have the awareness now of some really common ones to look out to. Of course, there's so many more, right? We all have our own idiosyncrasies, but these are some of like the really common ones that come up, and they can come up without us even realizing. So as your subconscious grows and starts to understand these different tools, you're able to take control of the situation and make your recovery time a little bit quicker. Are people going to get on your nerves? Absolutely. Are people going to piss you off? Absolutely. But it doesn't have to ruin your day. It doesn't have to be an all-out affair. It could just be something that you capture the information, you analyze it, you let it go. It could actually be that simple. So, like I said earlier, these are some of the things you want to look out for. And I'm going to give you some tools to actually condition you a little bit more. Keep yourself around things that smell good. I know that sounds so simple and so crazy, but it's part of our sensory. It's our memory and our sensory. If you think of maybe your grandma makes these great chocolate chip cookies, right? And so when you walk into a room and you smell those chocolate chip cookies, you all of a sudden have comfort and love, and all these emotions come over you. It's not really because the cookie is so great. It's because you remember your grandmother baking the cookies, and the emotions that go along with it. So having good smells around you and familiar smells is actually comforting. So I remember in my previous office I had this air freshener. It smelled so good. Ironically, the scent was called Happy. And you didn't notice it in the hallways, but as soon as I opened the door, it's like, home. Like, it just had this really comforting feeling, which is great because if I'm having clients come to my office, they're feeling that too, and that's what I want. I want people to come in and feel warm and loved. And so that's why when you go into the mall and you go past, Bath and Body Works, especially if they're in that holiday season and they have all those smells that are like pumpkin spice and apple cinnamon, and it smells so yummy, right? So that's why. It's because it has a familiar, comforting kind of feeling when you're smelling it. So believe it or not, having smells that bring you joy is a way that you can balance your negative emotions. They even have essential oils that you can carry in your pocket or your purse or whatever you have. They're small little tubes like this, and you just rub it on your wrist. And when you breathe it in, you look for one that helps exude joy. And you can breathe it in, and it just relaxes you, and it makes you feel good. And it can be that simple. Another thing, and I was just talking about this earlier today, is it takes 11 positive emotions to replace one negative emotion. And you may have heard me talk about this before, right? So 11 positive emotions. Just really think about that. If something negative happens to you, a lot of times everyone knows about it, right? The next thing you know, I can't stand this looking at this light. Hopefully you can still see me. It looks so much better this way. 11 negative emotions to replace 11 positive emotions to replace one negative emotion. So when you think about it, you go out into the world, you go into a business, right? And the business does something that really upsets you. They undercooked your food, they didn't fix your car properly, whatever it was. You want to tell everybody because you're so upset. And you probably told a couple of people on the phone, maybe you even gave them a bad review. A little while later, somebody else calls you on the phone, 2 hours have gone by, and you're still talking about it. You're like, oh, you're not going to believe what happened to me today. Negative emotions can take up so much more energy than a positive emotion, and they take so much longer to bounce back. So if you have a reservoir of positive emotions, your brain can kind of grab from those to balance itself out a little bit quicker. So sometimes I've told clients, oh, keep a gratitude journal, and they just look at me like, yeah, whatever. There's an actual science behind that. And sometimes when you don't understand the why, I know I'm a why person. If you don't understand the why, you don't take action. But the reason behind that is by journaling and keeping track of these positive things that are happening in your life and being grateful, it's actually creating a positive reservoir. Not only in your subconscious mind, but you could have a written journal, you could have a journal on your phone, wherever it is, a quick place for you to hop in and just take a look at it, read it over, and especially on the days that you're going through something negative. By doing this regularly as part of your daily routine, what that does is it actually reprograms your mind and gives you a quicker recovery process. So that way, when you're feeling down, when you're feeling frustrated, you have tools and resources to go to that you can bounce back and you can make that recovery time a little bit quicker. So maybe right now, your average recovery time when something happens and you're really upset is, let's say, an hour.
now, after doing this a few times, maybe your recovery time is going to shorten down to 30 minutes. Maybe your recovery time is going to shorten down to 30 minutes, eventually 15 minutes. Then what if you could bounce back in 5 minutes? Imagine that. You could just brush it off your shoulders and bounce back. Think of how much more productive you could be and how much better you're going to feel. So this is actually possible. Another thing you want to be careful of is your nutrition, believe it or not. Your nutrition affects you. It affects your limbic system, and you need a certain level of protein and fats in order to produce dopamine. So you want to have the healthier things. So for protein, you want to make sure that you have the healthy protein. You know, fish, chicken, beans, things like that. You want to avoid any sugar, any simple carbs, bread, pasta, things like that. What happens is if you have too much of that, many times it's been proven that people who are consistently feeling down, their diet is poor. So a lot of, you know, I've done raw foods before, and I felt like when I was probably at my prime when I was raw. I have a hard time sticking to it 100%, but I can feel on the day-to-day basis that when I have more living foods in my diet, that it actually gives me more energy and I feel better. So if you're having a lot of heavy things, that can actually bring you down emotionally. So if you look at all these different tools that we went over, and you look at all the things that now you're aware of to look out for, you can catch it in the early stages so that it doesn't become this overwhelming thing that ruins your day or days. And you can also have some tools to bounce back. If you have any questions at all, please go ahead, post it in the comments. I'm going to be starting next week 30 days of self-discovery. It's a free 30-day, it's really a journaling opportunity to really get to know yourself and explore. I'm going to post that in the comments once I finish up, so just jump back in and you'll see that in the comments. Now that my phone is upright instead of side by side, I can't really type too well from where I'm at, but I'll post it in the comments. And let me know if you have any questions, and I'd be glad to answer them for you. Have a great day.